Makasaysayang araw po sa inyong lahat. Hi, I'm Xiao Chua, Filipino public historian and author. This is Virtual Sentro Rizal Educational Series. It's showtime! Okay, so remember that when the revolution took place, we actually have a national flag. And that national flag was used by Andres Bonifacio. That national flag was ang design niya ay araw na may indefinite na sinag. There's a particular design. And then meron siyang letrang K in baybayin to symbolize kalayaan. This is actually a version of the seal of the Katipunan, which is yung liwanag ng kalayaan. So it's a sun. And many people point out, like Zeus Salazar, that this symbol is actually our symbol for Bathala. But there's also the common use of the sun, the splendor solis, or the sun in splendor, in various flags of Latin America. So in many ways that kind of matched. What happened was there were many flags of Filipino generals, but they're not evolution of the Philippine flag. They're not part of it. They're just flags of the Philippine Revolution, flags of generals. Okay? But the next national flag that we have, because remember that Bonifacio created the first national revolutionary government, that's why they have a flag. They have a national flag, which Aguinaldo also used in Cavite. And this was taken down during the Act of 𝒂𝒂𝒕𝒊𝒏𝒈, the flag that I was just, talking about earlier, our first national flag. The second national flag, and the second national flag could have been, inspired by the design of previous flags of the generals, like Feliciano Ocson, perhaps, because of the tricolor, perhaps of the Cuban revolutionary flag. And so the design of the Philippine flag was tricolor. That was the one that was adapted and was modified by Emilio Aguinaldo and the Hong Kong junta when they had the retreat there before coming back to reclaim Philippine independence. And so there were the 3 stars of in a white triangle field, and then you have the blue color and the red color. So it's a tricolor. And the design, the meaning of the design was that the 3 stars would be the 3 island groups: Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Okay? So you have the whole country already there. The white triangle is the Katipunan triangle, because that is a symbol of the revolutionary movement. The blue is for our progress, according to some of the definition of our heroes. The red is for the courage, for the struggle for freedom. But also, you have the sun. And the meaning of the sun is that, I have to clarify, it's not the first 8 provinces who revolted against Spain, which is wrong, but the 8 provinces that were placed under martial law when the revolution started. So yun lang ang meaning nun. But the sun itself has a meaning according to Emilio Aguinaldo. It says it is a symbol that the Lumads, the Mangyans, the Moros, the Aitas are coming together to work together. And so, if you're going to look at the design of the Philippine flag, it's cool, it's beautiful, but it's also very, very meaningful. And it's a flag that was born out of our struggle to free ourselves from colonialism and dream of a better life. So that flag we should respect. When we look at it and we sing the national anthem together, we're reminded that we are one people on the same journey, on the same boat. remember, being a nation is really we were able to identify with each other. No? Iba yan sa citizenship, Citizenship, this is very formal. You have to, may mga rules yan, di ba? Like constitution, and you have to go to the process. But being part of a nation is that when you can identify. Oh, halimbawa, Pilipino ka kung pinipili mo araw-araw na maging Pilipino. And even foreigners can do that. There are a lot of foreign vloggers now who actually identify themselves as Filipino because they fell in love with the culture. And I guess that is also what happened to Manuel Sitiao. Manuel Sitiao was an officer of the Spanish army in the Philippines because his father was a Spaniard. But eventually, he defected to the side of the Filipinos. He defected and joined the army of 𝐕𝐢𝐫𝐵 Aguinaldo in Cavite. And he said, I've served my father's country. I would now serve my mother's country. And so he joined the Philippine Revolutionary Army and eventually the Philippine Republican Army. And so this is where you can see that because we can all be part of, shall we say, the building of a nation, especially if we have Filipino parents. Magbabalik lang tayo sa ating pinagmulan, kumbaga. Yeah, parang si Manuel Sitiao. Well, remember that the Filipinos are a visual people. And so that is why if you're going to look at it, our Lenten practices are like visual. You have the cenaculo to teach the gospel of Jesus. And according to Reynaldo Ileto, the historian, the Passion, the song that we sing about Jesus' passion, death, and resurrection, actually played a role in our yearning for freedom. We actually, according to Ileto, saw the life of Jesus Christ as the life of the bayan, wherein Jesus Christ lived and gave light to the people, and then there was darkness because of his death. But after 3 days, he rises up again to rule and to give kaginawan and kaliwanagan. And so, in many ways, that narrative also was used by Rizal, by Bonifacio, the narrative that our bayan before was free, and that eventually there was darkness because of colonialism, and then that we're going to regain our freedom if we're going to fight for our rights. This narrative, according to Zeu Salazar, was the tripartite view of history as opposed to the bipartite view of history, which was what the Spaniards taught us. That when the Spaniards came, before they came, we didn't have civilization. Wala tayong kabiasnan. Ang mananinuno natin ay paon manabobo. And then after that, when they came, there was light. There was maravillosa civilization Cristiana. And of course, that makes us, that's the colonial thinking. That the good thing happened because colonialism came. So yeah, so there's the, because remember that colonizers use literature, music, education, the radio, especially the Americans, to influence the way we think, to tell us that our culture couldn't exist without them, that all the good things about us came from outside. This, according to Renato Constantino, was embedded in our education that was proliferated by the American public school system, and eventually that led to the miseducation of the Filipinos. Yung lahat ng Pilipino halos na impluwensahan ng kolonyal na mentalidad. Kaya nga, and I just have to clarify this, a lot of us I once said that a lot of us live because we have colonial mentality. Well, it's not just the OFWs. I'm not exempted from that. You know, that it's a struggle, it's a daily struggle for me to decolonize myself. It's still a continuing struggle because it's embedded in our education. But I have to also clarify that Filipinos live because of poverty. Not because they were colonial-minded. But the situation, the system, the poverty that is happening was aggravated exactly because of colonial mentality and the dependency of the elite to colonial mentality. It's the elite, it's the educated who have colonial dreams. Dreams of having a good life outside and becoming foreigners. Although there's really nothing bad about, you know, wanting to aspire for a good life outside, especially if there are no opportunities here. I do hope that you will also see how this colonial mentality and how this colonial setup that in many times we still feel the effect, how people like Amado Hernandez, who wrote novels to remind us of our struggles and of our identity, of Jose Corazon de Jesus, who wrote Bayan Ko and other poems to remind us of our country, of people like Francis M. and other, you know, other artists like SB19, who continue to inform us, who continue to remind us of how great we are. So you see, there was the colonial arts and culture that tried to dominate us, but there would always be resistance that is coming from the Filipinos.